What's up, guys? We're coming back at you with value number 4 of enjoyable and sustainable prayer. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to these blogs that I've been doing. I hope you've been enjoying them. I just want to give you a quick review about some of the things that we've been doing. Last week, we did a practical application of how to do spontaneous singing in your room when you're in your quiet time. And I said, take time to just sing over the specific city and how to love the Lord in that. And so today, or this week, I actually did it myself. I was praying over Hong Kong, and I just felt the love of God over the city. And I actually fell in love with the city again. Like I felt, even though I've been here for a couple months, I just felt the Lord's pleasure as I sang over the city and God's plans for it. So I just encourage you to keep doing that, even though the assignment is over. It doesn't mean you have to stop. So just keep doing that and enjoy that. But today, moving on, we're going to talk about value number 4 of enjoyable and sustainable prayer. This one specifically is for more corporate prayer and worship. But I have Krysta Cadwell here with me. She's my special guest, and Krysta is an amazing woman of God. I have I've known her for 7 years. We've done teen camps together. As teenagers, as well as being camp counselors together. We have trained curriculum for music and students all over the world, in Europe and Asia, in the Middle East as well. And she also is a good friend of mine, and we're serving together on the base here. So I'm going to ask her a couple questions, but I want to bring to you value number 4 is cultivating a prophetic spirit on musicians and singers. So this is something that is valuable for singers, but also for prayer leaders too. How can we cultivate that? Because one thing I realize is that sacred music creates sacred moments to love Jesus. Like things that I would not normally say yes to. When the music starts playing, I'm like, oh, I cry, I'll do anything, God. So I break down cultivating prophetic musicianship into 3 categories. So I break it down into living a life of devotion, having skill, as well as team ministry and having that unity. So Krysta, you've been a service team leader, one of the best of the best in Kansas City. You were the valedictorian. Tell us a little bit about cultivating that life of devotion in God.
Yeah, I think one of the main things is really, really basic, and we all know it, but I think one of the main things is that we actually have to carve out time and space in our schedules to just talk to Jesus. Take His Word and use it to fuel our conversation with Him. And so that, above anything else, I think cultivating a life of devotion comes from actually talking to the one that made us.
That's really good. I love that. Having that ongoing dialogue is crucial with the Lord. So concerning that, how are some practical ways, I'm not sure, but if there's maybe just some basic disciplines, doing the drills of cultivating that. I love the vision for it, but what are some more basic or practical things you do on more of a weekly, monthly basis to help sustain that dialogue?
Yeah. So I'll give you 3 things. We all know that there are times when we don't feel like getting up early and talking to the Lord,
Truth.
When our minds are full of busyness, of work, of life, of just relationships, all of these different things. And it's not easy to carve out space. And so I'll give you 3 things that have helped me to actually do that in a sustained way. So number 1, make time in your schedule, make it consistent, and fight for keeping that time. So if you say, I want to pray from 7 to 7:30 in the morning, keep that time, just like you would keep an appointment with a person that you care about.
Right.
Keep that time sacred to the Lord. So that's huge, actually making time in your schedule for it and keeping it. And number 2, create prayer lists. Write down 20, 30 things that are on your heart. You can spend 60 seconds each, or just go through talking to the Lord about them, but come even prepared with conversation material that you want to talk to the Lord about. And it's also really encouraging because when you have a prayer list, you'll actually see changes happen in the lives of the people and the situations on the prayer list, and it will fuel your heart for continued conversation.
That's really good. I just want to add something on that, is that having practical goals for your prayers, like actually, I want to see production, or I want to see, it may not happen in this time that you're praying, but actually saying, God, I believe, maybe for this area of issue or like injustice in the earth, having that, and then, or praying for a lost family member. That's something that's tangible, something you can see. It's not too far away that it's like, I don't know when that's going to happen. We don't know, but we also can see the tangible fruit when it does. And so that brings a lot of joy. Sorry.
Well, that's great. Yeah. That's great. And so number 3, taking the Bible and actually praying the Bible back to the Lord. When we feel dull in ourselves and we don't know what to say or what to pray, or we're caught up in our own emotions, we can actually use the Bible, God's written, inspired word, to have conversation with the Lord. So taking the truths that he's put forth in the word and agreeing with those truths, taking the commands that he's put forth in the word and committing ourselves to obey and to walk in the way that he's called us to.
Yeah, I think that's really good because as musicians specifically, it's almost like we're prophets. We prophesy through our talking. And so how can we prophesy about someone or talk about someone we don't know? So kind of like having that sobriety, I'm a musician and singer, I train people, but I need myself to have that vibrant life with God in order to multiply that on the earth. So I think that these are really good practical things to do that. So, but the next thing about being a prophetic musician, singer, in order to have enjoyable and sustainable prayer meetings corporately, it's skill. So, God loves our hearts in the process of gaining skill. But why don't you kind of just share a little bit about why skill is important? Why do you think it's worship to the Lord? And what are some things that you may do to help gain skill?
It's a great question. I think that skill is important because, number one, we see throughout the Word that God actually values excellence. And when Moses was building the tabernacle, he actually invited the people with skill and excellence to build and to be the craftsmen for this tabernacle. God actually loves excellence. He enjoys us in our week offerings, but he also loves and values excellence. And so that helps me to give myself to that. The second thing you asked?
The second thing would be like I said, why is it important? What are some kind of practical things that you would do to kind of cultivate that kind of skill?
Yeah, so I think specifically in music, if we're talking about singing or playing your instrument with excellence, again, similarly to cultivating a life of devotion, actually carve out time in your schedule, 10, 15, 20 minutes a day, to give yourself to practicing on your instrument and practicing the skills necessary to lead enjoyable prayer meetings, and practicing the skills to help navigate what the Holy Spirit is doing in a room.
Yeah, I think it's really important. You want your musical playing to be almost second nature. Like to the point of, I'm practicing the skill in order that I can focus and meditate more on the Lord during worship. And different themes, different styles of music are not bad by nature. It's just the way people use them. So learning how to learn the styles, learn the genres, learn the scales, or whatever you may do, just doing those things are really important. We don't have a total amount of time to go into all the specific ways, but Krysta could probably tell you, she practices more probably than anybody else I know about just practice, and she had the performance major for 2 years, and she's really, really grown a lot musically. So I really highly encourage you guys to apply yourself in that. And then lastly, is team ministry. Okay, Psalm 133 says, "Blessed is unity among brothers." and the reward is life forevermore. So we see there's a value for unity, but on worship teams or with prayer meetings, there can be confusion. And so how do you help make sure there's less confusion, make sure that try to resolve that, but also how do you help unite the room to pray and worship, maybe on some practical levels, some spiritual levels? What do you meditate on? How do you process it? Stuff like that.
Okay, so I'll first start with team dynamics. What comes to mind first is just the necessity to do everything with a spirit of love. And there will always be things that are confusions. There will always be things, mistakes that are made, either in character or in skill. But approaching everything with a spirit of love really helps us to actually helps those confusions to be resolved more quickly. As far as practicals with your worship team, I would really encourage you to actually make a plan before you come to your prayer meeting. Be able to communicate that plan to your team members. Give them an expectation for what you want to pray for and where you want to go in the Word and musically together. So that's just really helpful to have a concrete plan before you come.
Yeah, I think super helpful. Specifically, I don't know, different churches whoever is watching this. I, in my home church, or have worked with different churches where you want to make sure there's much unity as possible between worship teams and those that are praying specifically. So even telling the people that are in the room, hey, this is what we want to do specifically. This is how we're going to pray about this thing. This is how we're going to study the Word. Like different things to help organize them. We're not talking about any kind of like technical model to do it, but just having a plan of where we're going together, and the Lord can move in that spontaneous too. Mm-hmm. It's like God can move spontaneously, God can do crazy and cool things, but also having a plan, okay, we want to play these songs, we want to focus specifically on praying for this town because they need it or whatever. It really helps everyone unite together in prayer, and it helps create that team unity, that it's not just the guru worship leader that runs the whole thing, or it's not the pastor that is trying to get his congregants to pray, but having that unity on the front end, like a briefing on the front end, it really helps communicate and brings team unity. So yeah, that's really good, Krysta. Thank you so much for coming. If you like this, I encourage you to subscribe and be a part of my page. We're going to do 16 of these, so we're going to go into next year, go into it. If you like this, you can check out my Facebook page, check out my hashtags, #Crucio Post, #Crucio Partners, or #Enjoyable Prayer. You can also check out my new website that I am putting all this stuff on, and also my future Twitter and Instagram pages. You can check that out. So God bless you guys, and I look forward to seeing you guys again.